Hey guys, hold on, a little tight in here. All right, today we got a good one. We're going to be doing a UFO abducting a cow from the desert at sunset. It's going to be good. Let's get started. All right, first thing we want to do is draw a horizon line. The horizon line is basically where the sky and the earth meet, or the sky and the ocean meet. So that's a horizon line. So this would be the sky, and then down here, this is the ground or the earth. So we'll start with our horizon line, and we're gonna add some hills off in the distance. So I'll just do a line that kind of wobbles up and down. Maybe it gets a little bit bigger on this side. There we go. We have some hills in the distant background. And then down here in the foreground is where all the action is going to be taking place. We'll have our UFO up here in the sky, and in here our poor cow will be getting sucked up into the spaceship. So next, let's add an old fence just out in the desert. And we're going to use perspective for that. What we're going to do is we're going to put a little dot on our horizon, right there. That's called the vanishing point. And what we'll do is over here, right about here, we'll put a fence post like that. Notice the lines are kind of wobbly. This is a old wooden fence post made out of maybe trees or lumber. And we're going to have a line come to the top from that vanishing point, and a line going all the way down to the bottom of that post. And what's happening here is as the fence gets further into the distance, it gets narrower and smaller, and eventually disappears at this vanishing point. So now what we want to do is add in some more posts. So let's see, we'll put one right here. I'll put one right here. And as they get farther away, they're also going to get a little bit skinnier. See how this one is wider than this one? And they also kind of will start to look like they're getting closer together. Let me see. Let's do one more right about here. So there's our fence posts. Let's go ahead and draw some little ovals on top so it looks more three-dimensional. Let's clean up our lines here. We don't really need these lines anymore. There we go. And let's just draw some of the wood going across. It can be kind of wobbly because, like I said, it's from old lumber or tree branches. Looks nice and rustic. Let's make some of them broken. So maybe this one has fallen down. And then this one here, also broken. And then here, these ones are okay. Same thing. Notice how they're getting thinner. They're not as wide as they were when they started, or tall. And then they'll just get even smaller, like this. And then maybe this last one, really skinny, and maybe one of them's broken at the bottom. Next, let's add some cactuses, also using perspective, but we're just gonna sort of guess at the size rather than using our vanishing point tool. So I'm going to start with the cactus right down here. This is the foreground. I want this cactus to be big because it's closer to us. So there you go. That's a classic cactus shape right there. It's down close to us. Maybe over here, there's one a little bit farther away. So it's going to be a little bit smaller. And I just make the branches on the cactus all different sizes. And then maybe there's one really off in the distance, so I'll make that one even smaller. So there we go. We've created some pretty good perspective with our cactuses here. All right, now that we have that, let's start working on our UFO. We're gonna do the classic flying saucer style UFO. So it's hovering right here, let's say. Right there. Okay. That looks better. And then on top, let's do a C curve. It's the dome of the flying saucer. This is, again, the classic UFO style flying saucer. And then we're going to put another little C curve at the bottom here that comes down below our oval. Kind of looks a little bit like the planet Saturn right now. Okay, that's looking good. And then we'll put another C curve, not as curved, but maybe about that much. Just a slight curve going upwards. I'll bring it over here just a bit more, like that. Okay, that's looking good. I'm gonna tidy up this side of it just a bit. Okay, good. Now, I like my UFO to have a lot of light, so I'm gonna put another C curve here. And notice they're kind of close together here, but as it comes towards the front, it's gonna get a bit wider, and then it's gonna get a little skinnier again. That's more perspective as the disc wraps around. And we're gonna add some lights. The lights on the very side, they're gonna be skinny ovals, but as they come around to face us, they're gonna get rounder and rounder until in the middle, it's pretty much a perfect circle. And then as they go back around this way, they're gonna get skinnier and skinnier again. And again, that shows us that our flying saucer is nice and round. We've created a little bit more perspective there. Now, I like my flying saucers to have a little antenna on the top. I'm not sure what that does. Maybe it's in communication with the mothership, but there we go. Okay, let's add where the beam is going to be coming down. That's going to be a nice little oval right at the bottom here. Pretty flat oval. And from there, we're going to do two straight lines. So I'm going to just go like this, like that. That is the beam. I'm actually going to erase this part because it's behind the fence. The beam is picking up the cow behind the fence. So let's make it about that big. Okay, good. Looking good. So we're going to add our cow now. And we're going to block in our entire cow. That just means we're going to put simple shapes. Once we have those simple shapes, then we'll draw our cow to be more cow-like. First, I'm going to start with a rectangle. Pretty simple rectangle like this. And in order to make things easier to see, let's just clean up some of these lines inside so we just see the rectangle. Okay, nice. Now let's put our cow's head on. His head's kind of tilted because he's probably a little bit confused about what's going on. His head is going to be somewhat triangle shaped, but it's going to get cut off at the bottom, right about here. So it's sort of, if I kept going here, I'd have a triangle, but I'll just stop it right there. And then again, a little bit of cleanup here, so it's easier to see what we're doing. Okay, good, there's his head. And then now let's add some legs. Legs are gonna be simple. Just sort of rectangles and then put little squares on the bottom. Those are the his little hooves. And then maybe this leg is kind of going forward a bit. Let me change that up a bit. There we go. So this one will be coming out like this maybe, with a little square hoof on the bottom. I'll tidy that up. His legs are probably flailing around because I don't think this cow has ever been lifted up into the air. We'll make this leg a little bit bent at the knee. And then same, this one's maybe coming back a bit here. So yeah, it really looks like his legs, he's trying to stabilize himself as he floats through the air. Okay, great. We got the legs, pretty simple. Let's add ears. I like drawing cow ears. I just do a straight line and then a curve, straight line and a curve. I'll clean up our little background lines. Won't need those. And then let's do two little horns. And those are just two C curves connected to each other. Okay, starting to look very cow-like. Well, look what happened here. I have this cactus right behind his butt. Let's get that out of there. And we'll put a tail in. His tail's probably whipping up into the air because he doesn't know what's going on. And we'll put that classic little puff of fur on the back of his tail. Okay, looking good. Now look what we have here. Let's start refining the shape of our cow. We have this point. Well, cow doesn't really have a corner like that. So I'm just gonna do a curve like this. And then I'll erase that corner. And then let me connect the tail back up. There we go. Same here. A little too much of a corner, so I'll curve that off. We'll give him more of a round bottom tummy. And then his head can kind of stay the same. Let's round off the legs a little bit. Maybe a little bit off of that knee so it's not so pointy. Okay, this is looking good so far. And of course, cows have that big oval nose and mouth. And let's make his mouth, he's kind of freaking out. So we're gonna give him, his mouth is gonna kind of be showing us that he's panicking a bit. And then we're also gonna put 2 little nostrils on each side. Weirdly, that just looks like a little tiny face. But instead, let's put some eyes. Our cow's eyes here, they're kind of big because he's very surprised about what's happening. And then we'll give him raised eyebrows. And we'll even shade in his mouth a bit so it doesn't look like a strange little face down there. Okay, there we go. So our cow is pretty panicked. And of course, let's give him the classic cow design, some wobbly shapes. Maybe one here on this back leg. All right, looking good. Now, before I get into color, let's add some more stuff to the desert floor. So maybe down here there's some bushes, and I'm just gonna do kind of like popcorn, little curves like that. The closer they get to us, the bigger. They'll be in perspective too. So maybe this one back here is really tiny. Maybe there's one down here, right in the foreground that's much bigger. Some more medium-sized right there. Just little bushes here and there. Give it some detail. And then maybe we'll do a couple of rocks. Maybe a rock right here. Give it a flat bottom. And then just sort of a jagged top, a couple of rocks. Maybe there's sort of a taller one there. Okay. Maybe some pebbles here and there. All different sizes. Maybe over here we'll have a couple of rocks. They're a bit farther in the distance, so we'll make them a bit smaller, keeping all that perspective going. Do a couple up here, really small ones. Okay, great, that's looking good. So now we're ready to ink our drawing. Remember, we'll use just a black marker for that. And we're just gonna trace over all of our lines. So for the sunset, I'm gonna use chalk pastel. Chalk pastel is really nice for blending. I'm gonna start with some yellow, but I'm gonna leave it uncolored down below our spaceship because this is gonna be a bright beam of light. So we're gonna leave a little bit of room for that. I'm gonna add some orange and keeping it straight, right? It's sitting up in the sky. And then we'll add some red. Make the red a bit thicker. It goes up a bit farther. Okay, good. And then I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna blend. And I'll even push some of the color closer in to the UFO, but I'm still keeping a bit of space around it because we want it to look a little bit illuminated. All right, it's sort of glowing like that. See how nice that is? When you blend, they just mix together so nice, and just like that, you have a nice sunset. Okay, and of course, when you have a sunset, the clouds are going to be in a, not the clouds, I'm sorry. The hills are gonna be in a silhouette. So we'll just use black for that. I like to be careful with when I use black chalk pastel because it can get really, really messy and too dark. So I'm just gentle with it. And then I'll go ahead and blend that in. Same thing, I'll just sort of push it around and towards our cow, but again, we're leaving most of this area untouched so we can put in a really bright beam that's pulling our poor cow up into the spaceship. I don't know how he's gonna fit in that tiny hole. I don't wanna know. Okay, and let's do some green chalk pastel for our cactus. And doesn't have to be super neat and tidy because we're gonna do some blending. I'll find a clean finger. You gotta be careful when you're blending with chalk pastel. If I went and used this finger, one of these dirtier fingers with the green, it would really muddy it up. So I went to this guy. Now our desert floor, I'm just gonna use some brown. I think it's gonna be darker up towards the top here. Get this started. Sometimes when you use chalk pastel, it takes a minute to get it going. There we go. Again, sort of leaving the area around our cow. And the desert floor, we'll keep that a bit lighter. Make my way around. We're gonna put down some shadows too. We're gonna talk about shadows. Down here in the foreground, a bit lighter. Because way up here, off in the distance, closer to the mountains, it's much darker. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now I'm just gonna sort of push it all around. Fill in all the areas that I missed. That's looking pretty good so far. We're gonna add some shadows in, but not quite yet. First thing I'm gonna do is add some color to my spaceship, and my spaceship is going to be, well, I think it's made out of steel or some sort of alien metal. So I'm gonna make it gray. And I'm just gonna barely touch it with some black, just like this. Same thing though, I'm gonna sort of avoid making it too dark around this area because it's gonna be illuminated by the light coming from our flying saucer. So here we go, here, and then I'll just shade that in, and this will make it look sort of like it's a gray metal of some kind. And just leave it a little bit light down here. And then I'm gonna color in, it's got all these lights. There we go. All right, so there's our lights. Now let's get into our cow and the beam. So the beam, I want my beam to be blue. So I'm gonna use this light blue, and I'm just going to fill in lightly over the cow, not too much. All around like this, just like that. And I'll blend that too, out to the sides. Now I gotta be careful though, because my finger is picking up some of that darker chalk pastel. I don't want it to mix into my lightest blue here. All right, that's looking pretty good. And then I'm even gonna add a little bit of white too on top of my blue to really make it seem like it's super bright. And this will be mostly towards the top, like this, and we can sort of put it around like this. So it's looking really, really bright. I'm trying to find a clean finger here. And maybe down the sides a little bit. Okay, and now we want to add some individual sort of rays coming down over our poor unsuspecting cow. Now, when I put those in, they're just a little too clean, so I'm gonna use my finger to sort of pull them down and away. There we go. So now it looks like our cow's really caught in that beam of light. Go ahead, I'm gonna add a little bit of, let's add some color to our cow, and that'll just blend in this little shape here. Those little cow shapes, like that. And on this leg, it looks like, I just put a little bit of black down. And then let's do his ears and his nose. I'm gonna use a colored pencil for this part. Remember, these are always nice and pink. Big pink nose here. Okay, good. And then I guess we'll make his horns like a light brown. I don't know if that's right, but there we go. Okay, he is getting sucked up into that spaceship. Okay, let's do some shadows now. And the shadows are going to be, the light is sort of coming out of the spaceship like this. So the shadows are going to be cast back from where the light is. So we'll just use this one here. And I'm just going to carefully go with some black like that. And then I'm just going to smudge that. And then maybe I'll pull some out right here to suggest, maybe I need a little bit more. I'm just going to suggest those two arms in the shadow there. So see, we have a little shadow coming from that one. And we're going to need some shadows coming from our fence posts. And they're going to change direction with the angle of the spaceship. And now I'll just blend that out, blend that one out, this one, and this one I kind of went off a little crazy there, but okay, good. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's add some color, wood color to our fence. I'm just gonna put a little bit of brown in it first, and then I'll mix in some other color too. And what we wanna do, we're gonna give this a little bit of shadow too. So let me see, what's a good color for the rest of my fence? Probably just really light black. And I'm just gonna gently, carefully put some black along the bottom so it looks like it's in shadow. Do the same on here, along the bottoms of these, just a little bit. And it looks like it's in shadow like that. Okay, and then do some blending. Blend that. Real gentle. I think I gotta bring some more blue down here. And then some more desert floor to fill in this area. Maybe we'll pull some a little bit out of here around like this. There we go. Okay, good. So I think we're almost done. Let's add a little bit of green to our bushes, even though it's the desert. Maybe they had a little bit of rain recently. And same thing, I'll just blend those. Of course, our bushes and our rocks are gonna cast some shadows too. So let me get, our rocks are kind of gray. And I just drop a little bit in and then I smudge it. See, just drop a little bit in, smudge, smudge, smudge. Okay, and then let's do some real subtle shadows coming off of everything here. I'll do the same thing. I'll just smudge it away. Have some here. There we go. These ones, these guys. And this one, maybe has a little bit of shadow going that way. All right, looking good. So I think the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the mountain a little bit darker so we get that beam looking really bright. Just kind of push it in there just a bit. Same on this side. All right, poor cow. Okay, just smudge this a bit more evenly. Same on this side. Okay. It's looking pretty good. And I'm gonna make the sunset a little bit more vibrant. So I'm gonna add some more yellow in. And then some orange. And more red. Keep it away from the spaceship. And look at my hands. I don't really have any good, I'm going to use my palm here to finish blending my sky again. Oops. And then this side too. All right, I think that's it. UFO abducts cow in the desert.